Welcome to the lecture on Introduction to Bank Discount. So, we will have some more introduction about and more knowledge about the discount, bank discount basically. So, now when a lender will be collecting the interest due from the borrower at the time the loan amount is finalized, the interest paid is called the discount. So, what happens that suppose you are getting a loan and you are supposed to pay it. So, some amount which you will suppose somebody has to get a loan of 1000 and 10% is the interest. So, he will only get so interest is basically 100 at the end of the year and basically he will be getting only 900. So, that amount is basically known as that discount. The lender is giving the borrower the rest of the loan money. So, that 900 which you will be getting, that is basically known as the proceeds. The rate at which the discount is collected is basically known as the discount rate, and the term of the loan is called the discount term. So, this is something trait of this discount which is there in the case of transactions. And what we find is that when we try to see the interest rate is basically based on the current value, whereas the discount rate is basically based on the future value. So, that is how the these terms are having the significance. Suppose if you look at the example, suppose the discount rate is 10%. Suppose so on a loan of 1000. Now, in that case what bank will do is the bank will deduct its discount. So, bank will deduct its discount, and this discount is basically 10% of 1000. So, it will be rupees 100. So, basically the borrower will only get 1000 minus 100. So, borrower gets 1000 minus 100, that is 900, and this is known as proceeds. So, that is what we have seen, that in this case the lender is giving the borrower the rest of the loan money, and that is basically known as the proceeds. Now, this borrower, they have to pay back this 1000 rupees. So, 1000 rupees basically is considered as the future value, and that is why that on that amount basically this discount is computed, so which is there in the case of discount. Otherwise in the case of interest you calculate on the current value. So, so in this case that is why 1000 is taken as the future value, and you have current value of 900. So, if you take the discounted rate, so that is your 10%, that is 100 by 1000, that becomes 10%. And it should not be confused with the interest rate, because interest rate, if you look at in this case it will be if you find the interest rate, so it will be 900 and 100. So, in that case 100 by 900 into 100. So, so that will be something like 11.1% or so, around 11%. So, that will be the rate of interest. So, the interest and the total discount which we calculate, they are basically different in that sense. So, when we calculate the interest, it will be CV into R into N, and similarly when we calculate the discount, total discount, it will be FV into D into N. So, it is the rate of interest R, and here it is rate of discount, that is D. So, what we see is D is total discount, and we also call it as the bank discount. Now FV is the maturity value of the loan, and all these terms like D is the discount rate, N is the term of the discount. So what we saw is that basically this from the future value, now this discount will be subtracted, and that is why in that case what we expression we get is that we get C, that is your proceeds, and this proceed will be the FV minus the discount amount. So that is how you get these proceeds, that is C. So C is proceeds. So this lender will basically deduct this discount amount from the paid back value, that is future value FV, and that is how you get the proceeds. So now what we found D as, so but we got D as FV into discount rate into N, that is how we calculate the D. So what we see is C will be equal to FV minus FV into D into N. So it will be FV into 1 minus Dn. So you can calculate the proceeds once you know the discount rate and the future value. In that case you can and also the term of the discount, so that way you can find the proceeds. Now if you have to find the future value, so you can further rearrange these equations and you can find the future value, and if you know the proceeds, it will be C minus Dn, C by 1 minus Dn. So from the same expression, if you reorient this expression, you will get this FV, and you can get the future value as C by 1 minus Dn. So you can have certain examples. Suppose that someone has to borrow. So if you have to borrow, suppose rupees 1500 from local bank for 1.5 years. Now at the discount rate of 9.3/4%, suppose. So how much that person will receive? So how much will be proceeds? So and how much will be the bank getting as a discount? So that you can find, and if you look at so and discount also, discount by the bank will be how much? So we know that the D will be FV into D into N, and so your D will be basically FV into D into N. So it will be 1500, and then the discount rate, if you look at, so it is 9.7 by so it will be 0.0975, and then you have 1.5 years, so it will be 1.5. So the discount amount will be approximately 219 rupees. So the proceed which we will be getting, the person will be getting, it will be something like 1500. So C will be 1500 minus 219. So it will be 1281, something like. So it will be close to that. So whatever you are getting here, you will be getting the same computation can be done. So whatever you are getting, this will be it will be checked. So you can calculate from this value, and you can have this amount calculated. So that's how you calculate these proceeds, or you can calculate the amount of discount which will be which has to be found out. Now you may also need to find the discount term and the discount rate. So, from the same expressions you can have these So, if you have to find the discount rate, you have to find d from here. So, if you say 1 minus dn will be c by fv. So, you are getting 1 minus dn as c upon fv. So, from here you can get either the value of d, and so it is d into n. So, you can get the value of discount rate or the term, and if you find that d, so d will be 1 minus c by fv. So, it will be 1 minus c by fv. So, it will come this way, so and then divided by n, or if you have to find the n, so n will be 1 minus c by fv divided by d. So, this way you will have the expressions by which you can compute the discount rate, discount term form or discount term formulas. So, this is the formula for the discount term, and this is the formula for the discount rate. So, that way you can use. So, suppose any for a loan something is given and the dates are given and how much borrower gets. So, you know the C also, proceeds also. So, in that case you can find the and the days are given. So, you can find the rate, or if the rate is given, then you can find the days. So, that is how you can find it. Now, if you look at the difference between this simple discount and the bank discount. So, simple discount we have studied earlier. Now, what is the difference between this simple discount and the bank discount? So, difference now how to evaluate these simple discount and the bank discount, simple discount as well as the bank discount. So, basically what we have seen that there is a procedural difference of collecting the discount amount. So, a bank discount, when we talk about it, has a slight computational difference from the simple discount, and we can understand it with the help of one example. Suppose you have suppose we discount rupees 5,000 for 6 months at 9% using simple discount and bank discount. Now, if you use the simple discount formula, so if you are using simple discount, now as we know that in the case of simple discount, what we do is that you are getting the current value based on the future value, and you will have R and N known. So, you will have CV as FV by 1 plus Rn. So, what we do is that you have FV as 5,000 and 1 plus Rn. So, R is 9%. So, it will be 0.09, and N is 6 months. So, 6 by 12. So, that is N. So, in this case you are getting 4784.69. So, that is how. So, what if you calculate the simple discount, it will be FV minus CV. So, it will be your FV is 5,000 and your CV is 4784.69. So, it will be 215.31. Now, this is the simple discount. Now, if you use the bank discount, Now, in the case of bank discount, we know that D will be FV into D into N. So, your D will be FV into D into N, and in this case FV is 5000, and the D is again 0.09, and N is certainly 6 by 12. So, it will be 225. Now, in this case the proceeds will be FV minus D. So, FV minus D will be 5000 minus 225. So, it will be 4775. So, now what you get is that bank discount comes out to be 225. So, your bank discount is now what we see is that bank discount method has produced a larger discount, that is 225, as compared to the simple discount method which has given you 215.31. So, because this is the case when you are using both the discount rate as well as the rate of interest same as 0.09. So, that is how that is basically the difference between the simple discount and the bank discount. Now, if you try to have the different logic of achieving that using this example, now what we see is that the discount basically will be D will be FV by, so that is the discount rate. It will be, so discount rate if you have to find, it will be D by FV into N. So, that becomes equal to 9%, whereas if you find the R, that is rate of interest. Now, in this case your amount is 225, and then divided by 4784 into the time, and that gives you the rate of interest as 9.4%. So, what we see normally is that the interest rate for the simple discount process is normally larger. As you know, look at, in this case the 9% will go to 9.54% if you use the simple discount method in those case. So, so that can be seen. What you see is that if your discount is 9%, how it is coming, because you are getting D by FV into N. So, that is how you are getting 225, and this FV is 5000, and this is 6 by 12. So, that is how you are getting as 9%. Now, if you try to have the rate of interest for this, so rate of interest will be basically you have 225 as the discount, and what you have the 4784, and you have the 0.69 and then 6 by 12. So, 4784 is here calculated, and this is the current value, because when you are talking about the rate of interest you have to know about the current value only. So, this comes out to be 9.4%. So, what you see that when you calculate using the simple discount method, it gives you a larger value, larger rate of interest, that larger value interest rate will be larger using that simple discount process. So, what we so we can have certain conclusions, and the conclusions can be pointed out, and this is that when we use the same rate of interest R and the D, then the simple discount amount of the bank discount method would be larger. So, that is what we have seen, that the bank discount will be larger than the simple discount. So, if R is taken as equal to D, that is what we have seen in this example, and R will be D more than D if dB is equal to ds. So, if dV will be equal to ds, in that case R will be more than D. We have seen that here. So, this is what is there, the difference between the simple discount and the bank discount. Now, we can compare this discount rate to the interest rate. So, we will compare discount rate to interest rate. So, we can have the comparison between D and R, and what we see is that we have equations like we have C equal to FV into 1 minus Dn. So, that is what we had the two equations for this, and another equation is Cv will be Fv by 1 plus Rn. So, these are the two equations which we have got for the for this proceeds, and then we have also here for the interest rate. This is for the discount. Now, what we see is that we have here you have the proceeds and here you have the current value. Now, what we see is that Fv into 1 minus Dn, it will be basically the current value only. So, they will be equal. So, what will be happening that Cv. So, normally what happens that this proceed becomes same as the current value of the maturity amount. So, we are equating these two and we get Fv into 1 minus Dn will be same as Fv by 1 plus Rn. That is what it is for the proceeds which is there at the present time, and similarly you have the current value. Now, from this, if you are dividing it by Fv, so what we get is so you are getting 1 minus Dn, you divide the whole side by Fv. So, 1 minus Dn will be equal to 1 by 1 plus Rn, and now you can write that 1 by 1 minus Dn will be equal to 1 plus Rn. So, so you will further write 1 by 1 minus Dn minus 1 will be Rn, and from there you will write same as 1 minus, so it will be Dn upon 1 minus Dn, it will be Rn. So, from here we can have Dn upon 1 minus Dn, so that is Rn, or we can further have the expression as d by 1 minus Dn, that is R. So, because n and n will be cancelling from here, and we can get the expression for d by 1 minus Dn will be equal to R, and the interest rate is expressed in terms of the discount rate. In such cases, we can also further write as d into 1 by 1 minus Dn. This is becoming as the R, and now what we have earlier seen is that 1 by 1 minus Dn, it will be 1 plus Rn. So, what we see, so this is from here what we have got 1 minus Dn, or 1 by 1 minus Dn is 1 plus Rn. So, this concept is used. So, it will be d into so d will be, so from here what you get is d into 1 plus Rn will be R. So, you can get d as R by 1 plus Rn. So, you get two expressions, one is calculating d in terms of R and n, another is calculating R in terms of d and n, and you can calculate anything. So, what you got is, once you first expression you got is d by 1 minus Dn, that is R, second is d is R by 1 plus Rn. So, from this basically you can get the values of either D or R, and you can compare them accordingly. So, we can have some examples of suppose a bank basically discounts a note at the rate of 3% for 120 days. So that is how. So, what will be equivalent interest rate? So, suppose in this case you know the D and also you know the N. So, in that case you can find R, and R will be D by 1 minus Dn. So, D you know that 3%, so it is 0.03, and then 1 minus Dn, so 0.03, and N is 120 days, so by 360. So, this way you will have approximately 0.02 or 2% interest. Similarly, you may be in some case a person may be offered something like interest rate of 9.6% on a loan, and that was to be planned to pay back in 8 months. So, in that case, if you have to find the discount rate, so there again you can use the expression like D equal to R by 1 plus Rn. So, R you know, N you know. So, in that case you can find. So all these formulas can be used for finding the rate of interest or discount rate, and further they can be used for further calculations. Thank you very much.